Hello everyone and welcome back to Southeast Guitar Repair Academy. Today we're going to be covering some soldering techniques and some wiring basics. Now there's a lot to cover when it comes to this stuff. Today we're just going to cover, proper soldering, iron usage, prepping the pots, doing a little bit of wiring, how to run the wires and everything. Just a couple little tools you'll need. So right off the bat, we just got this old pickguard laying around. I just grabbed some pots out of the drawer. This is just for practice. We have plenty of these laying around. I highly suggest you practice before you actually start soldering on the customer's piece. So we got our pots here. I've already started to load the pickguard, but there was a couple little things I wanted to show you guys. Usually when you get a pot, you'll have this little nib right here. Some pickguards, some of the old pickguards, and then some of the old mounting plates for the Les Pauls and stuff will have this little nib. Usually you just boom, pop that off and toss it. If they don't, just so it's not in the way. You can see this pickguard is a little bit smaller in these holes. These pots actually don't fit. You can take your little reamer. You can actually get a nice reamer like this. You can ream out jack plates, metal plates, telly plates, anything you need to, just to get the pot to fit. A lot of times people will buy a pot from us and go home to do it themselves, and they're like, that's the wrong size, it doesn't fit. But you literally just, if you want to upgrade to a better full-size pot, you're going to have to modify where it's mounted. So just ream it a couple times, a couple turns. Okay, looks like it fits. And you're going to want to put your lock washer on first, and then that goes on, and then you have your washer and your nut up underneath that. So before I ever put anything in, I like to go ahead and prep my pots. You'll see a lot of people just solder straight to the back. I try to avoid that. These have these codes on here. They actually tell you what value it is. Some of the older pots will actually have codes on the sides or even on the top. You'll actually be able to identify the year of the instrument because of that. This is just an easier technique for me, and it's cleaner. It helps you run your wires nice and even and nice and clean. So I like to take this file, and I'll literally just go around the edge of the whole pot, just because you never know where you're going to actually end up running your wire to and soldering it to. So actually prep the entire pot just by filing right around the edge of the crown there. And that's literally all it is. You're just scuffing up a surface so your solder will have something nice to stick to. And then it's nice and clean. You can avoid having to get too far into the numbers on the top or anything like that. I've already done this one, so we're good there. Today we're just going to be doing, I'm just going to do volume, tone, output jack. There's nothing crazy about it. It's very straightforward. Once you understand how everything works, it starts to make a lot more sense to you. I do highly recommend getting yourself, I call this the wiring Bible. This wiring diagram book right here is so helpful. Helps you understand so much about wiring. It has everything in here. Doesn't ever hurt to have your wiring diagram on hand. Always, if you can't find one in here, go online, print one up, but have it on hand, have it in front of you. It'll save you hours and hours of headaches just trying to guess signal flow and why something's not working, why something's cutting out, why something's not grounded. Just have your wiring diagram on hand. Super easy and very helpful. So if you don't understand how a pot works, it's pretty basic. There's not a whole lot to it. You have your hot in and then your hot out. Now if you actually look, I don't know if you can see underneath here, you'll see this black strip right here. I don't know if I need to get in the light there. That's the resistive strip. So as you swipe your pot, as you turn your pot, it goes across that swiper. That swiper goes across the resistive strip right there. So say you got a volume, so you have your hot in and your hot out, and then your ground, you're grounding that to the top of the pot. As you're going from one side across the resistive strip with the swiper, it's slowly going to ground, and that's what creates the volume to actually go down. And if you look, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little bit of a little strip right behind this one that goes straight to the middle of it. That's your hot out right there. So that's basically how a basic pot works. Nothing crazy, nothing fancy. You're going to want to have, I like this. I took this little screwdriver and I just filed a little flathead and I filed a little notch in the top. I like to have this on hand so I can kind of hold my wires down whenever I need to, wherever I'm leading them, wherever I'm running them. I'll show you a couple neat little tricks to do also. Make your wiring look nice and clean. You never want sloppy wiring. You never know who's going to be in there, but also, take pride in your job and your work. Make it look nice and clean when you're finished. That way also, if there are any other issues or problems, you can follow all the wires directly right where they need to go. So, all right. So first thing, I usually like to run all my grounds. I'll run my grounds and then kind of my basic contacts. We're just going to be going off this right here, volume pot. There's your hot end from the switch. You jump the two pots together. This cap right here is literally just connected to the tone, and then it's grounded. They just happen to jump it across to the ground of the volume pot. They don't have to actually be connected there. This wire actually connects the two pots for the signal. So you can actually ground this to the top of the pot if you want, which is usually what I like to do. Doesn't hurt to go through and prep your lugs first. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a little here and a little there, just so y'all can kind of see and watch how it's all done. So say I'm going to run my ground first. I'm going to jump my ground from here to from the back of this pot, the back of the tone pot, and then to the ground of the output jack. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to prep by, I'm going to start on this side and use this ground here, and then I'm actually going to come around and jump back up to here and then back down to the output jack. So you see I'm kind of hiding my wires up underneath. So I've pre-measured everything just for that spot right there. And I'm going to go ahead and strip this back just a little bit so I have enough exposed. So we're going to get our ground. We're going to go ahead and ground this lug too. We're going to get our ground here, and then ground to the output jack. What I like to do is I like to use the legs of the capacitor and do a little bit of my jumping with these. It's very helpful, very handy. I'll go ahead and just clip these a little shorter. So my cap's actually going to be mounted right about here. So I'm going to leave it on top of the pot. So our leg's going to go here, and then it's going to be grounded right there. So I already know how much I need. Go ahead and take these off. Now, I can go ahead and ground this lug here, which I'm actually going to do with a little bit of the cap leg right there. So you got your solder. Usually keep it on the spool. Be sure you keep your tips nice and clean. I need some more soldering tip cleaner here. You can tell, but I'm running at 720 typically. And get yourself a good soldering iron too. Be sure you're not skimping. Don't use one of those that plugs directly into the wall. You won't have any real temperature control over it. So we're running at 720. We're going to go ahead and prep this little spot where this leg's going to sit. Right about here. And then you just want to sit there and let it pool up. You don't want to sit there and tap on it. You want to touch the surface that you're actually going to apply the solder to, then apply the solder. So it never hurts to go ahead and prep the tip of the wire. You always want to get everything easy, nice to flow through. And then you're just going to make your contact there. And then just pull that back up, and voila. A nice contact for your grounded lug. I'm going to go ahead and connect it to the lug here. Get our solder in there. Don't need too much, just enough to make the contact. Once you got that on there, you can go ahead and come through, clip this leg. We're going to reuse this leg in a second whenever we jump our two pots together. But so now we have the start of our ground there. Go ahead and tin the tips of your wires, wire contacts through here and through here. And now we're going to leave this long because I want to be sure that we're giving ourselves enough space, enough room. So I'm going to come back up here with my same ground. I'm going to connect it back to the top of the pot. Then I'm going to take my little tool here, kind of tuck this up underneath there, up underneath this pot, and now we're going to come to the edge of this pot here. And let's see, we're going to get our little solder point right there and just kind of look into how far we need to stretch our wire there. And make your contact and let it pull back again. If I can get it on there. A little shaky there. And then we're just going to run this wire straight to the ground of the output jack. You can see I'm keeping my grounds nice and low. I try to keep all my wires tucked down. You don't want everything overlapping and over the tops of the pots and everything and making a big mess everywhere. You want to keep it nice and clean. And it doesn't hurt to have some tweezers on hand too. You can get some better ones than these. These actually work really well right here. You just grab the wire and then it just holds onto it. But these are my snacking tweezers, so I won't be actually using these. That contact to melt. And you see you don't actually necessarily have to go in through the holes. It's not completely necessary, but some manufacturers will be on an assembly line and somebody will go through and just tie all the wires in and everything and send it down the line, and then somebody will solder everything together. So it can be handy. So we're just running our ground. So now we have all three of our components grounded together. We're going to go ahead and jump this lug, right? These two lugs together, these two pots right here. So to do so, we're actually going to use, like I said, the leg of one of our caps. So we're going to measure this. We're going to go ahead and cut it. And then make sure it's not interfered with anything else. We're going to drop a little heat shrink on it, which was just here 2 seconds ago. And that was not. Okay. Keep plenty of sizes of heat shrink on hand, bunch of different thicknesses. And now I'll measure this as well. Cut this. Go ahead and heat shrink it onto here so it stays nice and clean looking. And get your lighter. Get your heat shrink. Now there's a lot of times in soldering where you'll be holding something or holding a wire in place and the heat starts to transfer through your soldering iron into the wire and it burns, but just hold tight. I'll go ahead and prep this. And we'll just do this basic video here. We'll end up doing a bunch of other soldering videos and stuff in the future. This I just want to cover some, kind of some basic techniques and stuff where you see, even from some of the major manufacturers, you see some stuff come through that just looks horrendous. So we're going to try to help show you guys how to make it nice and clean and pretty looking. And you can see I'm a little on my heat shrink on this side. That's not a problem. You can just manipulate these lugs a little bit. Just push this one back a little. And you can bend it back in place. And you're right there. Go ahead and solder this other side. Sometimes you end up going through and doing your soldering and it looks so nice and clean and then you miss a solder connection. You go to plug it in and you're like, what's going on here? So we've jumped our two pots together, we've run our ground for everything. We'll go ahead and toss our cap up top here and then ground it to the top of the pot itself. Run this down through here. Make sure you don't get any cold solder joints either. As you solder, let that sit. Don't jiggle it around or move it around or anything like that, because you will create a cold solder joint. It'll look like it's actually soldered, but it's actually not really touching anything on the inside. So be very careful when you're doing that. And like I said, remember, minimal solder points. You don't want to go too crazy. Now it looks like there's a lot to do with this wiring diagram, but it's couldn't be more basic. We have our grounds, we have our cap, we have our two pots connected. Literally all you have left is to run your hot out to your output jack. And as you can see, I keep my solder on a spool right there. I can literally just pull it, bend it, and just got it sitting right here. You got this little helping hand thing too. A lot of people use a lot of different things. I'll use this every now and then. A lot of times it's easier to mount everything and then get it in. So obviously it's different on a hollow body or something like that. You got to do everything outside and then feed it back through the pickup cavity typically. Normally on a hollow body, the F-hole is not big enough. So you would normally come through the pickup cavity. So same on this one. We're just going to dry run our wires, and we're just going to come down up to here and give a little bit more slack than that. We're actually going to feed our wire through our ground there. There's some other cool little tricks and stuff that I'd like to show you guys later, but we'll get to that when the time comes. Prep your lug. Get your wire. Sorry, we are open, so there's a lot of noise in the background. Busy, busy, busy. So I mean, you can get creative with it. You can go anywhere you want. I try to, come straight down and sort of kind of feed underneath the pot if I can. You could take it this way if you wanted to. Follow your ground as well. I'll probably end up running this route here. It's best if you got a little bit of space up underneath your pots. You could put a couple lock washers up underneath there, and then you can feed your wires around and hide them nice and tight. You could even come through this side. You could twist and turn around your ground here. Get creative with it. Just make sure it looks clean when you're done. So this will actually secure everything into place. You know that it's not going to be moving around. All of our techs in here are being very polite and quiet while we film this. We appreciate their patience. Now you got our wires nice and tucked away, nice and clean and out of the way. If you've done it right, it looks like you're only about halfway through, but as of right now, that is fully wired. We got our volume, we grounded our volume, we got our two pots jumped together, we got our cap, we got our full ground run through, we got our jack wired up, we got our hot out. As she is, you can plug right in and she'd be ready to play. Obviously she would need pickups, but like I said, go buy your wiring book. Follow your wiring diagrams. If you don't have one, print them out online if it's something different that you're not used to, or if it's something new. Most of this will be new to everyone. This book's very helpful. Like I said, this is just really scratching the surface. I just wanted to go over some basic techniques and stuff. We've had quite a few wiring questions. I just want to let people see how soldering should look. You don't want to get carried away. You don't want these big glopped puddles of solder on the back of your pots. You don't want to use too much heat. You can burn out a pot. You can easily burn up that resistive strip, and then by the time you're done wiring everything, you try it and it's all scratchy. And so you want to be very careful. Also, soldering on the corners of the pot will help too. It'll keep the the heat from the center of the pot and keep it kind of out to the sides of the component itself. So that's it. That's our basics. There's going to be a lot more to come. Thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks.